Okay, dear friends, we all want to have a happy life and we always try to avoid suffering. But if we don't understand real reasons, causes of our suffering, then we will do things to get rid of suffering in our life, but it will not work. It will not help us to let go of our suffering and have happiness in our life. So there is a wrong view in our life about suffering. Most of the time, we feel someone else is responsible for my suffering, or my parents, or my friends, my husband, my wife, or my colleagues. They are the causes of my suffering. So then, what do we try to do? We try to change them, or we try to avoid them. We try to change our external things. Yeah, sometimes it works, but it is very temporarily. If you want to have a everlasting happiness, a true happiness, then we should let go of that wrong view in our life first. So we should not think someone else or something else in the world is responsible for my suffering. Instead, we should understand real causes of our suffering and the pain. Most of the time we have mental pain. So mental pain is stronger than physical pain most of the time. And why do we have mental pain? Why do we have such sufferings in our life? The main reason is negative thoughts. Whenever we have negative thoughts, defilements in our mind, we have mental pains. It could be anger, it could be greed, it could be jealousy, it could be some regrets, it could be some stressful thoughts. So whenever our mind is in an unwholesome state, it creates mental pain. It creates suffering in our life. So first, we need to understand that in our life. Then we should implement a system to let go of negative thoughts, defilements in our mind. So here are 5 steps that we can follow to let go of negative thoughts, defilements in our mind. Number 1, reflecting. Number 2, recognizing. Number 3, contemplating. Number 4, understanding. Number 5, meditating. So what is the first step? Reflecting. So dear friends, we all have some particular negative thoughts that bring so much pain to our life. For some people, it could be anger. For some people, it could be regret. For some people, it could be jealousy. So we have been going through so much mental pain because of particular negative thoughts in our mind. So we should understand it, and then we should learn the patterns in our life. Then we should reflect on the drawbacks of having those particular negative thoughts in our mind. How can we learn the drawbacks and the danger of having negative thoughts, the particular negative thoughts in our mind? We can learn it from teachings of the Buddha. So there are so many suttas, so many teachings in Buddhism that teaches us about drawbacks of negative thoughts. Then we can learn it, and always we can reflect on it. Another way to understand the drawbacks of negative thought is through our past experiences. So we can look back and we can understand the moments that we went through because of the negative thoughts, some issues that we had because of negative thoughts. Then we can learn, oh, at that moment, because of anger, I scolded my friend. I spoke some harsh words to my colleagues. So because of that, they stopped talking to me. So we can learn those things in our life. Then we can understand why it happened because of that particular negative thought. So then we should reflect on it always. Often we should give a suggestion to our mind about the drawbacks of those negative thoughts. So when we do that, we practice wise thinking. So wise thinking helps us to develop our awareness regarding that particular negative thought. So if you have some issues with anger, then always you can think, or anger arises in my mind. When anger arises in my mind, it's not good for me, it's not good for others, it destroy peace in my mind, it doesn't help me to have a peaceful mind. So often you can reflect on that. So then it helps you to be aware of those negative thoughts. Then it leads us to the next step. What is the next step? Recognizing. So now it's easier for us to recognize those particular negative thoughts when those thoughts arise in our mind. Most of the time, we do not recognize negative thoughts. It takes some time. So negative thoughts come to our mind, then those thoughts lead us, and we take actions out of those negative thoughts. Then it creates some chaos for us, then we regret. Okay? Then it becomes a kind of vicious cycle in our life. But since we reflect on negative thoughts often, then it helps us to recognize those negative thoughts as soon as those thoughts arise in our mind. Then we can go to the third step, contemplating. So contemplating means, again, try to understand the drawbacks, the danger of having those negative thoughts. So whenever anger rises in your mind, so you recognize it, then you contemplate on the drawback of having anger. You think, oh, now anger has arisen in my mind. Anger is not good for me. Anger is not good for others. In the past, anger brought so much pain to my mind. Anger breaks healthy relationships. It creates more chaos in my life. So we contemplate on the drawback, the danger of having those negative thoughts. Then those negative thoughts will fade away in our mind. Another thing we can do, understanding. What do we need to understand? We need to understand impermanence of those particular thoughts, and also we need to understand impermanence of circumstances that trigger those negative thoughts. Again, suppose anger comes to your mind, then instead of thinking according to anger, or instead of letting anger to lead us our life, we try to understand impermanence of anger. We think, oh, now anger has arisen in my mind. Anger is not permanent. Anger is impermanent. Anger is subject to change. It doesn't belong to me. Anger is not me. It's not mine. It's not myself. So when we try to understand the impermanence of anger, or that particular negative thought, then we can keep some distance with ourselves and that negative thought. Then we can detach from that negative thought. Then we do not feed that particular negative thought. Then it will fade away from our mind. And also, we can understand the impermanence of the circumstances that triggers that particular negative thought. Suppose suddenly anger rises in our mind because of some harsh words that we hear at our office, at our workplace, or at our home. Then we need to understand the impermanence of that moment. We can understand, oh, what I heard is not permanent. It is impermanent. The sound I heard is impermanent. And also we can focus on the impermanence of our ears as well. So these, my ears are also impermanent. And the defilements or the state of the mind my colleague had or my family member had, also subject to change. It is not permanent. So we try to understand impermanence of that situation. Then it helps us to let go of that particular negative thought. And also suppose jealousy arises in our mind. So we can also focus on impermanence of jealousy, and also we can understand impermanence of the situation or the circumstances that triggered our jealousy. So then it helps us to let go of that negative thought. So in Buddhism, Buddha has recommended particular meditations to let go of particular negative thoughts. For an example, loving kindness meditation is the best meditation to overcome anger. So if someone has issues with anger, they can practice loving kindness meditation every day. Breathing meditation is best to let go of restlessness in our mind. Impermanence meditation helps us to let go of greed in our mind. And also, if someone has issues with jealousy, contemplation on altruistic joy or appreciative joy helps us to let go of that jealousy. So we can learn particular meditations that help us to let go of certain negative thoughts. Then we can practice it every day. So then it helps us to remove those defilements, negative thoughts in our mind. So dear friends, system with 5 steps. We can implement this system in our life. The first one is reflecting. Second one is recognizing. Third one, contemplating. Fourth one, understanding. Fifth one, meditating.